There is a former reporter for ESPN covering the NFL for the 5 previous years until a few months ago. He was working for the NFL Network. His name was Mr. Jim Trotter. He's now a former NFL Network reporter because in the spring his contract was not renewed by the NFL Network. And as a result, in the aftermath of all of that, he has filed a lawsuit against the National Football League and the National Football League media, which is basically the NFL Network, for racial discrimination. Before I even go any further, let me say to everybody that although I don't know Jim Trotter that well on a personal level, let me tell you what I do know about him. I know that he is an outstanding NFL reporter. I also know that he is a man of high integrity. If he says something, he believes it. Whatever level of proof he may have, that's for him to reveal. But I do know that he is a man of high integrity. He is universally respected as a reporter in this business. He is somebody that has a pretty damn impeccable reputation as a reporter. And obviously he is not afraid to speak his mind. But if we're being honest, one could easily surmise that is what got him into this situation. His lack of reluctance or hesitancy to speak his mind. To reflect on what transpired with Jim Trotter before I express my opinion to you, let me first say that in 2022, as Super Bowl week, media day for Roger Goodell, press conference rather, for Roger Goodell, before the Super Bowl in February of 2022, and then again in February of 2023, Jim Trotter addressed Roger Goodell on both occasions regarding the lack of minorities, specifically black, in decision-making positions for the NFL Network. Here was Trotter's first jab at Roger Goodell in February of 2022, leading into the Super Bowl.
When we look at the league office, of the top 11 executives there are only 2 people of color. When we look at NFL Media Group, where I work, there is not one black person at the senior level in the newsroom who makes decisions about a league whose player population is 70% black. Why does the NFL and its owners have such a difficult time at the highest levels hiring black people into decision-making positions?
If I had the answer right now, I would give it to you. I would have implemented it. I think what we have to do is just continue and find and look and step back and say, we're not doing a good enough job here. And we are the ones that have to make sure we bring diversity deeper into our NFL and make the NFL an inclusive and diverse organization that allows everyone the opportunity to be successful.
That was Jim Trotter in February of 2022. Before I get all into this, and you know I will, a year later, Jim Trotter, reporter for the NFL Network, keep that in mind, addresses Roger Goodell at Roger Goodell's press conference for the second consecutive year. Listen to what he says here.
I asked you about these things last year, and what you told me is that the league had fallen short and you were going to review all of your policies and practices to try and improve this. And yet a year later, nothing has changed. When are we in the newsroom going to have a black person in senior management, and when will we have a full-time black employee on the news desk?
We did go back, and we have reviewed everything we've been doing across the league. And I'm not specific, do not know specifically about the media business. We'll check in again with our people, but I am comfortable that we made significant progress across the league, and that includes in the media room. And so those are things that we'll continue to look at and hopefully make real progress to. I can't answer because I do not know specifically what those numbers are today.
In the aftermath of that question to Roger Goodell, and in the days or actually weeks that followed, Jim Trotter, according to his lawsuit, essentially was asked, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the exact quote in front of me, forgive me, whether he was all in and whether his feelings were aligned with that of the NFL, and he said no, not as long as blacks are still not being, or the paucity of black individuals in decision-making positions are not being addressed. So because of that, his contract was not renewed once it had expired. He's making the claim that it was expected to be renewed. And to read directly from a report here in the New York Times, it says Jim Trotter, former reporter at the NFL Network, has sued the NFL and the league-owned cable channel for racial discrimination, claiming that his contract was not renewed this year because he repeatedly spoke out about pro football's lack of diversity at the league office. Trotter, now a columnist for The Athletic, by the way, a sports website owned by the New York Times Company, said in a 53-page complaint filed in federal court in Manhattan that he was let go in retaliation for, among other things, publicly challenging Commissioner Roger Goodell on the league's commitment to diversity. According to a quote from Jim Trotter, it says the NFL has claimed it wants to be held accountable regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. Trotter said in a statement, "I tried to do so, and it cost me my job." That's what he said. Couple of things. We're going to have a conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen, and I want you to listen good. There are some things I'm going to say today you ain't going to like. There's some things I'm about to say Jim Trotter damn sure ain't going to like. And I'm going to get into all of that as well. The NFL is not going to like some things that I have to say either. Okay? So I want everybody to listen. Because there's going to be accusations of selling out. There's going to be accusations of looking out. We're going to try to decipher the difference between the two. I'm not running from the damn conversation. I'm not running from it. But I'm going to educate folks. And all I'm going to ask you to do is this. Remember, please, that I've been in this business for 30 years. Sometimes it ain't about right and wrong. It's about what's sensible. It's about what's doable. It's about what's plausible. And it's about what's foolish. And so we're going to have that conversation right now. But before I do any of that, I want everybody to know that on First Take, my day job, #1 sports morning show in America for 12 years and counting, which I am the star of, the commissioner himself, Roger Goodell, was on. Not via phone, not via satellite, in person, in studio, right in front of my face. To his credit, he promised me he was coming on. To his credit, he said he was coming on. To his credit, even after the news broke yesterday, he reached out to me to say, I'm still coming on. And he came in the studio knowing that I wasn't going to ignore this issue. So this is yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, on First Take, on ESPN, this morning, asking Roger Goodell about this very, very issue. Listen up. Your response to these allegations that have been leveled against the National Football League.
We dispute, obviously, his claims. He's brought this into a legal forum, and we'll deal with them in that legal forum. We feel strongly about the progress that we're making. Obviously, we're always going to try to get better. We're not satisfied where we are, but we'll deal with those charges in the court of law if ever they're presented to us. People ask questions, and we do not editorialize with our NFL Network personnel. They're allowed to ask questions like anybody else. My understanding is the contract was up.
Yes.
That's an important element to that. But a lot of changes are going on in our business, as you know from ESPN,
yes.
The NFL Network. We're all looking at that, and we're making lots of changes to our business.
Let's get a couple of things out of the way first. Do I believe that Roger Goodell had absolutely positively nothing, whether it be directly or indirectly, to do with Jim Trotter not getting his contract renewed? Of course I do. And here's the reason why. Because you're the commissioner and you have people working under you. And whether you say something or not, I happen to be in this business and know that you don't have to say anything directly when you're in that kind of position. There are people under you who are fearful for their own stature within the company that may have taken liberties and assumed that if you're going to ask the commissioner those kind of questions, that might not be a comfortable position for us to be in. Therefore, we're going to make it an uncomfortable position for you to be in. I'm not in any way implying that Roger Goodell picked up the phone, reached downstairs, and did anything. I'm saying by virtue of his prowess hovering over the National Football League, do I believe that subordinates who were over Jim Trotter, that may have influenced their willingness to let him go? Hell yeah, I believe that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, should it surprise any of us? Should it surprise any of us? I mean, can we grow the hell up? Can we grow up? Please. Jim Trotter is an exceptional NFL reporter. That's why he's at The Athletic now. Didn't take him long to find a damn job. He's too gifted. He's too skilled. He's too principled. We get it. But that doesn't mean that everything he does is what everyone should do. See, we're going to wake up and we're going to address this situation with the realness that it deserves. Jim Trotter, according to the lawsuit, is seeking to have a court-ordered monitor put in place to investigate and review NFL policies and implement necessary changes on its hiring. I am a black man, just like he is. I applaud Jim Trotter for taking a position like that. It's clearly principled. As a black man, why would I have a problem with that? By the way, one of the pictures that was seen earlier was him with my boy Steve Weish, a reporter for the NFL, an exceptional reporter for the NFL Network who's been in this business for years. He and I go back nearly 30 years. I love him like a brother. I've known him that long. Steve Weish is one of the best human beings you could ever encounter on the planet, one of the most principled human beings you'll ever encounter. And any friend of his should be a friend of all of ours because that brother is special. Just like I say about Chris Broussard, just like I say about Rob Parker. I don't give a damn that these people work at other networks. They're my boys. I don't know Jim Trotter like that. I don't have a personal relationship with Jim Trotter. I have a personal relationship with Galen Gordon, a former executive at the NFL Network who departed from there to ultimately come to ABC. He's the man that hired Jim Trotter from ESPN. It was his first hire. So to trust you me, there's connections here that far exceed the average person out there listening to what I'm about to say. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. In the lawsuit, we've got Jerry Jones, an alleged quote from Jerry Jones in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, the murder by Derek Chauvin, the cop in Minnesota that put a knee on his neck for over 9 minutes. I think it was 9 minutes and 28 seconds to be exact. And all the roaring that took place thereafter because people all over the place, particularly black people, we are fed up. Enough is enough because metaphorically speaking, figuratively speaking, that knee on that black man named George Floyd's neck was indicative of how we have felt as black people in this nation forever, always feeling the weight of a proverbial knee on our neck. Absolutely true. So when people were reacting emotionally and what have you and expressing themselves and really speaking out and white America was standing up with their hands up talking about, oh my goodness, we hear you. We want to hear you. We want to understand. We want to listen. We want to make sure we get it because we understand how wrong and how awful and how egregious that was. We understand that in the midst of all of that, you have billionaires who own NFL teams that may have felt a different way. They may have had the temerity and the unmitigated goal to say something different. We know this. It's not a surprise. And sure enough, a quote from Jerry Jones, who I joke about, my buddy, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Quote, if blacks feel some kind of way, they should buy their own team and hire who they want to hire. I'm going to ask Jerry Jones if he said that. Next time I speak to him, next time I see him, I'm going to ask him that question. Because if he did, I'm going to tell him as a black man, I'm highly offended by that quote. It's very dismissive and insensitive. I wouldn't say racist, even though it connotates some kind of racial insensitivity. There is a difference. This is a quote Jerry Jones is alleged to have said. He has categorically denied it. Categorically denied it. Quote, you see it right there. Diversity and inclusion are extremely important to me personally and to the NFL. The presentation made by Jim Trotter of a conversation that occurred over 3 years ago with myself and our VP of player personnel, Will McClay, is simply not accurate. That is what Jerry Jones has said. I don't give a damn what the quote says. When I see him, I'm going to ask him. Because I respect the man. I know I troll Cowboy fans. And I know I mess with it, but it's a love-hate relationship. There's nothing big. It's all in fun in sports. But on a serious note, I know many things that Jerry Jones has done for many black people. And I got love for Jerry Jones. But if he said that, we're going to have a conversation. Period. Because I certainly don't condone that. Terry Pegula, his alleged quote, the owner for the Buffalo Bills, you saw what he said, right? Allegedly, according to the lawsuit, if the black players don't like it here, they should go back to Africa and see how bad it is. Now, that's racist. That's some racist shit right there. And if he said something like that, I think that's grounds to treat him like the NBA treated Donald Sterling. I don't think Jerry Jones, quote, you should buy your own team and hire who they want to hire, is on the same level as go back to Africa and see how bad it is. I think that's two different things. That's me. But Terry Pegula, in fairness to him, his statement, the statement attributed to me in Mr. Trotter's complaint is absolutely false. I am horrified that anyone would connect me to an allegation of this kind. Racism has no place in our society, and I am personally disgusted that my name is associated with this complaint. Now, damn it, if you're innocent, that's the kind of quote you want to read. I give Terry Pegula credit for that. If you are innocent of such an allegation, that is the kind of damn quote you want to read. But getting back to the nitty-gritty, let me get to Jim Trotter. I am not about to sit here and question the veracity or the legitimacy of Jim Trotter's complaints. I can tell you as a black man in this industry, that brother has earned the benefit of the doubt. I can tell you that based on his allegations. I can also tell you that if you're the National Football League, you got a problem. Colin Kaepernick, John Gruden, and what was revealed with his whole situation that led to him being exiled from the NFL because of racist emails that were ultimately revealed during an investigation in the former Washington owner, Daniel Snyder. You got Kaepernick, you got that. You got Brian Flores, the former head coach for the Miami Dolphins, who filed a lawsuit against the National Football League, being joined by 3 other coaches. These are issues if you're the National Football League, but here's some others. It's the year 2023. You only have 3 black head coaches. Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh, Todd Bowles, Buccaneers, D'Amico Ryans, Houston Texans. You got 6 minority coaches, Ron Rivera, Mike McDaniel, biracial, Robert Salah, Lebanese American, Ron Rivera, Hispanic. We get that. Some would say black coaches, they'd say 4 instead of 3 because Mike McDaniel is biracial. The NFL, 5 black men who are team presidents. Commanders, Jason Wright. Bears, Kevin Warren. Ravens, Sasha Brown. Broncos, Damani Leach. Raiders, Sandra Douglas Morgan. I can't wait to meet her. I've heard such wonderful things about her, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, when Roger Goodell came into the league in 2006, who were the black executives? There were none. Who were the black presidents? There were none. General managers, who? I think it was like 2, Ozzie Newsome and somebody else, when he first came into the league. Coaches are the big problem for Roger Goodell's legacy because he came in 2006 where they were about 7. Now it's down to 3, and it's been about 3 a year for the last 5 years. They're not going in the right direction. Something has to be done. Go watch my interview with Roger Goodell in its entirety on First Take on ESPN, courtesy of ESPN YouTube these days as well. You can go check it out. But that's after you listen to what I have to say. Back to Jim Trotter. You can be right, and I don't know whether he is or isn't, but I think that the numbers support his argument to some degree that something needs to be addressed. Certainly with how they were ready to let go of Michael Irvin with the quickness off of an allegation and nothing more. No sound, an innocent video of him talking to somebody for 45 seconds. You pulled him off Super Bowl coverage. We didn't see his face on television talking about the NFL from February until a week ago. His career was in jeopardy because a non-black female, I don't know whether she was white or what her ethnicity was, but I know she wasn't black. A non-black female accused him via Marriott, according to Marriott, of saying something inappropriate and uncomfortable, et cetera, and it almost cost him his career. So the NFL Network willing to throw him to the wolves with that level of quickness. Okay, I don't mind the NFL Network taking any heat over that. But it still brings me back to Jim Trotter. And this is where I'm going to make some people uncomfortable. Because I just told you, I'm not in a position to disagree with him. His facts are his facts. And if he has them, the NFL has some explaining to do. There are 8 GMs who are black, 9 are minorities. 3 black head coaches in the year 2023. Something got to be said. Something's got to be said. And I agree with all of that. But I'm telling you right now, that still doesn't negate my bigger point. And by the way, 56% of the players in the NFL during the 2022 season were black, and just over 40% of the assistant coaches in the NFL are coaches of color. Here's the point that I wanted to make. Jim Trotter, he said that the NFL Network has these problems. He approached Roger Goodell in an attempt to implore him to do something about it when it came to putting blacks in positions of influence and decision-making positions. He implied, if not flat out said, it's your shop. What are you and the NFL owners going to do about it? Because Roger Goodell is the commissioner and he answers to the owners, so it's y'all league. What are you going to do about the paucity of African Americans in decision-making positions and executive positions? You addressed him at a press conference for the entire public to hear. How'd you think that was going to go over? Now, Roger Goodell is on the record saying that Jim Trotter's contract was up. It's a salient argument that they make, meaning the NFL, when they say, as outstanding of a reporter as he may have been for them, and he still is for The Athletic, that in the same breath, this guy, Jim Trotter, was let go, do the cuts because of the financial times that we're living in. Anybody in this business knows the NFL Network, like Disney, like others, have been going through some tough times financially, which is why the layoffs have occurred. I work at ESPN. David Pollack is gone. Jalen Rose is gone. A host of other people have departed from ESPN. Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson. There's a litany of big-time names who produced in a big-time way that are gone. And the belief is that they were replaced by other highly qualified and highly credible people, like a great Hall of Famer that is Doris Burke, like the great coach that is Doc Rivers, who lost his job in Philadelphia, didn't get the head coaching job in Phoenix after being exiled from Philadelphia, and now has landed at ESPN, that you're getting them for half the price that they had Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, because cuts happen. So when the NFL makes that argument as to why Jim Trotter was let go, okay, that's one compelling argument. I'm saying bump all that. Ladies and gentlemen, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Asian American, Indian, Native American, Jews, Gentiles, Catholics, Christians, non-denomination, atheists, whatever. I don't know too many people who can call out their bosses in a public forum for everyone to see and expect to have their contract re-upped. That's just the real world. That's just the real world. I've had 2 black bosses in the last 24 hours say to me, I'm not talking about my bosses, I'm meaning 2 black bosses, 2 executives in this industry who said to me directly, I wish somebody working for me would talk that way to me publicly and call me out like that. I'd have fired their ass in a heartbeat. I'm quoting, just not telling you who. It's widely understood. And what pisses me off is when we walk around and we act like, you know what, why are we surprised? Listen, if Jim Trotter sat up there and said, I couldn't take it no more, I knew what was going to happen if I did this, damn it, enough's enough. My man, I feel you on that. That's what I'm talking about. Because you went down on principle, and it's that simple. But when you're talking as if you're surprised, I'm like, in what world? So we'll find out, and we'll dig deeper into the NFL and this racial discrimination lawsuit that has been filed against them. We'll piggyback off of that. We'll remember Colin Kaepernick and what he had to go through before the $1 million settlement when he was unfairly blackballed and whatever. We'll go through all of that. That's fine. And I'm good with whatever emotion that you have. Any emotion other than surprise. Don't tell me you were surprised. Don't anybody tell me out there that you're surprised. If you call out your bosses, because essentially that was the implication as he was directing his inquiry towards Roger Goodell at a press conference in Super Bowl week. You work for the damn NFL Network. You couldn't get a one-on-one interview? I'm not saying whether he did or didn't in all seriousness, by the way, because I don't know whether he did or not. I didn't ask. But I'm just saying, there are certain conversations that are made to be handled in private. Everything doesn't have to be handled in a public forum. Unless, of course, you're willing to accept and embrace the consequences that come with it. That is the real world. That's my only issue with the excellence that is Jim Trotter. Did it have to be a Super Bowl week? In press conference? Couldn't have had that conversation in the NFL offices off of Park Avenue? With that man one-on-one to his face? I'm simply asking because I did. Long before Roger Goodell came on First Take, I met with him face to face. And whatever issues that I had, I broached it with him. One-on-one privately. That comes with the business. But that's just me.